At this time, WICZ presents Community Scene with Barbara OLDWINE. This week's topic is the Rod Serling Foundation. Now here is your Community Scene hostess, Barbara OLDWINE.
Hello, everyone. Well, like Rod Serling, I can say Binghamton is my hometown. And today we're going to have Miss Helen Foley. Helen, welcome.
Thank you.
And Mr. Michael Pipher. Michael is the president of the Rod Serling Foundation. And I guess, Helen, you're the mover and the shaker, right?
Well, I always had a big mouth, Barbara, as I said to you before.
Okay. And this is a special time in our lives in Broome County because once again we're going to have the opportunity to lift the image of a man who has been so special.
Right.
Tell us, Helen, how did it all get started after Rod passed away?
Well, after he died, I think a lot of us were in shock because we certainly didn't expect him to die so young. I remember that I was in Montreal, and my sister saw it in the telephone, or in the newspaper, and she said, I might as well tell you or you'll hear it. And I just couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, after I retired, we were traveling quite a bit and not at home, but when I was away when the premiere of the movie Twilight Zone came to Binghamton, and Michael Pipher called me in Charleston, and at the time I had a terrible disc problem, and I had to wear a collar, and I looked stunning, and I was in pain, and I said, oh, I can't come. But I thought, oh, I have to come. I can't go, but I did. So I came to the movie, and I had a glorious time. Dick Deacon came, and Kevin McCarthy.
Remember all of us from West Junior?
Oh, yes, and the gang of kids. But it was really, it was quite thrilling. And once again, everybody began to think about Rod, not that anybody had ever forgotten him. And after that premiere, Jules Levitt haunted me. In fact, we came out of the cocktail party at City Hall, and he came up to me and he said, I'm Jules Levitt, and I thought, I didn't know who he was. And he kept pestering me to start a foundation. And every once in a while, I have lunch with Stan Galinsky. I take him, he takes me, and we have a wonderful time talking. And he took me, and when we got into the place, Oscars, he said, I have a surprise for you. And I said, good. So the surprise was Jim Sturgis, who used to be on the stage with Stan and who was in The Mad Woman of Chaillot with Stan. And we were talking about it, and I said, kids, we've got to start something. And who went by but Dave Stearns, poor Dave. And we snagged him. We said, Dave, you got to get in here. And Dave really lifted us off the ground. He did a magnificent job of organizing. Stan and Charlie Lesko did a wonderful job of keeping track of what little money we had, and we had almost no money. And we just met every month, and we got a lot of kids that were in Rod's class who have dropped by the wayside. And several teachers were in it because I knew them, Irene and Ann McNulty and Ann Greiner, and Ruthie Lee, and I don't know, if I leave out a name, I'm going to get, what.
Well, that's all right. We're going to have plenty of time to get it in. And this was the beginning.
This was the beginning. And Carol Sterling came down to a meeting that Dave had at his house. We had to meet at Dave's office. Then we went in Charlie.
Always have a good lawyer, notice this.
Charlie Lesko, business manager. We met first in Charlie's office at 135 Front Street. And it was the most enthusiastic group. In fact, one fellow dropped out of it who was in Rod's class because he said, all they do is have fun. Well, I don't see anything wrong with having fun.
Well, that would be what Rod would want.
Of course, he'd be the biggest mouth in the whole group except for me. But he'd have the most, that's right, and he'd have the most fun. And I think he'd be thrilled with the people who have followed through and who have done a great deal. And now that Michael Pipher has left town, I have to say that if it weren't for Michael Pipher and Barbara Furch and our mayor, Juanita Crabb, we wouldn't have any place to meet, and I'm sure that we wouldn't have had such marvelous cooperation of the whole town. Right. If it weren't for those three people.
And now we're moving on to the foundation, Michael, with you as the chairman. And how's that going? What's the newest thing this year with the foundation?
Well, our current fundraiser and major project is our celebrity auction coming up June 13th at Bostov's. And that'll run from 10 o'clock in the morning with preview of the auction items, and the auction beginning at 11 through 6 o'clock. The Connollys are doing the auction for us. They're wonderful, and we're looking forward to a great time with that.
And before we show what we're going to have at the auction, you brought some wonderful pictures that just bring back the memory of how we're trying to keep Rod's ideas alive and well in Broome County. And we're going to have those come up, and Helen, you'll tell us all about them.
Not all, but I'll tell you, there's Rod in his boat. You know, they have a place over there at Cayuga Lake, and Rod just loved sailing, and he loved that place. Originally, it was Carol's grandmother's, as I understand it, her farmhouse, and then Rod and Carol built a place for their retirement. And while Rod went there, he never had a chance to retire there. And this is a picture of Rod and Carol when they were quite young with their 2 children, Jody and Ann. Ann now has a child, so Rod would have been a grandfather if he had lived. And
What a sweet, sweet family.
notice, please, how beautiful Carol is, and she still is beautiful, and she's very cooperative with us, and we hope that she comes to the auction.
Oh, yes, it'll be great.
And there they are, the 2 of them, and that is in
1958.
1958.
Did she go back to California or stay
Oh,
in
yes,
that
she's in California now. Now, you know that they went to school together.
Okay.
They went to school together at Antioch, and she wasn't going to marry Rod because he was so woman crazy. And there he is with, who's this, Michael?
That's
Ingrid
Ingrid
Stevens,
Stevens off the set.
1959. They're just talking. And you notice his dazzling dimple.
Instead of being the writer and the projector, you think he's just the total
I
star.
know it. Well, he is a star. He should have been an actor. I think he would like to have been an actor.
He personally selected a lot of his cast. for
Did
the
he really?
Twilight Zone
There he
series.
is in a redo of his paratrooper business. He was a paratrooper, you know. And he was also a bantam, or whatever you call it, a skinny little fighter, prize fighter. And we have some real pictures of him as a paratrooper because after we got started, the everybody who knew Rod in the service got in touch with me. This is Andy Bezick, and this was taken in the library at Central High School. Rod came down to speak to the commencement class, and he did a marvelous job. And Andy came up to me, was the first one in the library to see him. And, oh, Rod was so glad to see him. And I tracked down Andy Bezick, and one day when I was getting a collar for my neck, I saw his wife, and that's how I am going to get in touch with him. This is Rod in the library, and behind him is Artie, who was a stage crew member, and I always was crazy about him. And, of course, there's Fat Foley in the background. And he's showing a picture of, what's he showing there, Michael?
It doesn't
Probably
say.
something relating to Andy Bezick. Now here he is with his eternal cigarette, which you can't see very well. And what is this? At Broome County? Yeah, at Broome Community College. That beautiful smile he never lost when he was a little boy. Do you remember him when he was little?
I'm along with you, Helen, you know.
Come
we're
on.
trying not to remember
But anyway,
that.
when he, when he was small, he had that dazzling smile. Here he is with a student at, I think that's
This is
Ithaca
Broome in
College.
71,
Is this
yeah.
Broome
Broome
in
in
71?
71.
You know, he loved kids.
Isn't it great how he came back, and even though
back
it was
and
important,
back. Oh, yes.
to lend his support for young people who were...
He really, he was a wonderful teacher too, you know. And he would talk to a kid, if you ask him to
Did
talk
he have
to
any dream of this writing when you were with him and the fame that was going to happen? Here he is
well,
again.
he had, I love this
This
picture.
is
of him.
73 at Broome.
I love it. There's a kind of sad look about him here, in spite of his smile. Do you notice it?
Well, maybe he had something very important on his mind that
Maybe
he was
did.
sharing.
Well, no wonder. He worked very, very hard.
Oh, this is when he...
This is at Broome. When he was,
This was the
He was a
last
great
photo.
speaker. I knew that he would be a great speaker because I had him in public speaking and I had him in all those assemblies at West Junior. I don't remember a thing about his writing, but I do remember that I couldn't keep my hands off him, but don't tell the authorities.
Oh, I see. Those were the days. Those were the days. Right. But...
Oh, this is a darling picture of him. So serious. And now, what is he doing there, Michael?
Just holding the dictaphone machine, I believe, I think.
And
wasn't-
someone has brought these forward to you, so we now have them at the foundation
Oh,
and can always
yes.
be shared.
These are part of the forum display, the permanent display that we rotate.
Oh,
And
okay.
these will be on display at the forum.
Everybody in town was wonderful to us, Barbara, when we were looking for things for the exhibit at the Forum, which we hope will be the Rod Serling Memorial Theater someday.
How's that going? Are we really...
Well, we're waiting. We're biding our time, but that is our main goal, because something in this town should be named for Rod Serling. I think if it were any other town, I don't know why it's so slow in Binghamton.
Well, it just
because-
seems slow to us because
we love him so.
Because we want it to happen
That's
already.
right, yes.
Well, I'm surprised. You thought him to be a speaker, but he turned out to be a writer and a designer and author.
An author, but he also was an actor. He was in a couple of TV shows, and I can remember going to see him in a play at Central. I taught him at West Junior. He started all this business about Central, and I said, Rod, I didn't teach you at Central. I taught you at West Junior. He said, we're not going to spoil anything. And I thought, far be it from me, but I did teach him in West Junior. And I went over to see him in excursion, and I think he was the captain of the ship. And he was the captain, no matter how small he was in stature. In fact, he used to say, one of the kids that was in his class said, you know, he'd say, Can you see me up there when he came out to make a speech? Especially his, he was president, you know, of the school.
Student body, right.
Yeah, and he was editor of the yearbook, and he was on the Courier at West Junior. He was very active in anything. He also was on the football team. Don't forget that. And he said once in a speech that he wasn't much bigger than the Bulldog, but he was on the football team. He was crazy about Henry Moores, crazy about Lloyd Hartman. They were friends forever. And he was crazy about all of his teachers, all of them.
That's
And-
something to be said. Maybe
Right.
it's an adulthood that young people sometimes don't realize.
And
so
he
soon.
loved school, and he loved learning, and that's something that's because of TV, pardon me, but you know, kids
Well,
are
maybe
not
we'll
special.
instill that in young people
I
when
hope
they
so.
see all the things that are
Yeah.
important. Now, we've been so fortunate to have these things sent in. Michael, why don't you just go through some of the special things we're going to auction? I know you have a list there. Pick your favorite. What one would you bid the highest for? Or is that question
That's really hard. There's so many things I'll be bidding on myself. We brought some of the more expensive, unusual celebrity items.
Surely.
Let me show a few of those. John Travolta sent this sweater vest that was worn on his television special, May 12th, The Dumbwaiter. There's a little hole in the back, and there was a handwritten note saying that the hole is supposed to be there. That's where the gun strap went through.
Oh, okay.
And his involvement was through Rod's brother. They worked for about 3 years trying to get the new Twilight Zone series started. And when it fell through, it finally made it a year or two later anyways. But that was very lovely to get an unusual, one-of-a-kind item such as that.
John Travolta, my.
Jack Lord was the first person to respond. And this is the most beautiful. This is the original police badge that he wore on Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, okay.
And he sent a handwritten letter stating that this usually sells for $500 in auction. And I've had two friends locally bidding back and forth already, and we're up to $155. So it's a very lovely, unique item. Jack Lord also sent the police whistle from Hawaii Five-0 that was used in the box. And it's hard to put a value of any sort on some of these unusual items.
Well, it depends on the person, what you're watching, what
Exactly.
you're following.
And what you like.
That's right.
We have some of Rod's personal memorabilia that will be auctioned. This is a leather billfold with his name engraved in metal and sewn into the cover.
And these were shared by Carol? She
Carol
sent them?
Serling sent these, some for the archives and some to be auctioned. Autographs of Rod's are very rare, and we have not turned up any autographed photos, but here is a canceled check, which these are very collectible, and of course it's Rod's signature. We have 3 of these to be auctioned off. This is a memo desk pad with his name on the cover, and inside was a sample of the postcard that if someone wrote in during a Twilight Zone episode, this is what Rod sent to them, thanking them for their comments.
Oh.
So this is a lovely item that will be auctioned.
And the general public will have a chance to come in the morning of that day.
Right, 10 to
And
11
10
for
to 11,
previews.
and then it'll be sealed, or is it going to be open? Sealed bid
No,
or
just
open?
regular auction
Regular
bidding.
auction.
This is a very unusual item. Rod had 3 production companies. Cayuga Productions in Ithaca did the Twilight Zones. Interlaken Productions did the Loner series. And this is from Finger Lake Productions, and this was the embossing seal that was used for all paperwork and correspondence. So we are auctioning the original embossing seal from his Finger Lakes production company.
Oh, well, that'll be very interesting. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be back after this announcement. Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara OLDWINE. My guests, Helen Foley and Michael Pipher, and we're talking about the Rod Serling Foundation. And what I want you to remember, if you don't catch everything we say, get your pencil ready, because we're going to give you the phone number and we'll give you the date. Now, Michael, you have some more special things from Mr. Serling that we may all get a chance to have.
Surely. This is one of Rod's cigarette lighters from Playhouse 90. He received 2 Emmys from the Playhouse 90's, Patterns and Requiem for a Heavyweight. And this will be auctioned. Again, it was sent from Carol Serling for the auction.
She certainly is generous to us, isn't
Yes,
she?
she is.
Yeah, she's been marvelous with us.
Charming.
The very first Twilight Zone ever to air was Where Is Everybody with Earl Holliman. And Mr. Holliman sent something for us and commented in his letter that he was sorry he had nothing Twilight Zone to send us. It was about that time Carol Serling sent me the original script for this episode. So I, in turn, had a limited edition done with our Rod Serling Foundation logo, sent 4 of them to Mr. Holliman, and asked him if he would keep one for himself as our gift to him and autograph the rest. Let me just read this very quickly. This is what will be auctioned. He wrote on this, Rod was a truly great guy, a warm, generous, humorous, loving human being with a marvelous talent. It was impossible to really know him and not love him. I've always been especially proud that he personally chose me to play the lead in this first Twilight Zone. Earl Holliman, 5/20/87, that just came in this morning.
Oh, just in time.
So this is a marvelous item to
that's
have, and very rare, being the first Twilight
Helen, are you
Zone.
going to let anybody else get anything at this auction?
No, I'm not.
Oh, I just
I'm
thought-
going with, I have to go take out a loan, and then I'll go and spend the loan.
Just take your visa.
Oh, all right, yeah.
One of the most expensive items to come in was Phyllis Diller's watercolor. And she's an artist now, and it's titled Charlotte, and she has it priced at $700. Her letter to us said that she never sells her works, strictly a few donations a year for celebrity auctions. And people might ask, why did Phyllis Diller send such an unusual item? She did a night gallery episode, and so she was directly involved with the Serling project, and we're really pleased to have such a lovely item as this.
Now, who took the lead in finding all of these special people and getting such a response? Oh, you're pointing right to the president? Well, he's not going to tell that. You have to tell him.
No, Michael Pipher did. Michael Pipher is in a position to know so many